We have risen from the ashes to school the masses. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Scholars of Wrestling Show, episode 367. I'm your man behind the microphone, Scholar Jeff. Joining us this week, as always, is the usual band of brothers. First up, we've got the undisputed scholar himself, Scholar Tarek. Scholar Tarek, how's your evening going?
I feel like for this special episode, you kind of had to have a little more funk in that intro, fool. It's welcome to the 2021 Schollies of the Year. The Scullies. It's finally here. It's finally here for us to look back and just realize how much of a shitty year 2021 was. But it also had some sprinkles all over that bullshit.
Yeah, what he said. Also joining us this week is the one and only Scholar Brian. Scholar Brian, how are we doing this evening, sir?
It's only the last show of the year, the most important show that we do every year. It's the Scully Awards. And as Tarek said, this year has been pretty rough in all aspects for wrestling in general, but celebrating the best and the worst of it could be fun.
Indeed it is. Speaking of the best, we're also being joined by the Scholars of Wrestling heavyweight champion of the world and the party champion, the one and only Scholar Charlie. Scholar Charlie, how are you doing this evening, sir?
I am well rested from my SmackDown nappy nap, ready to bring in the best and the worst of this year in the Scullies.
Absolutely. And last but certainly not least, the avian academic himself. You know him, you love him. He's our man, Jaybird. Jaybird, how you doing this evening, sir?
Doing good. Thank you for having the coach again on this. I'm very honored to be on the Schollies. It's my first, and I want to actually thank you guys for letting me do as many shows as we did this year, because it's actually, with my renewal of wrestling, it's just a new way to put my input out there online and everything, and I've had a blast with you guys.
Absolutely. We love having you here. You're welcome anytime. And maybe one day, just one day, perhaps you will gain that coveted title of scholar. One day.
We're all hoping for it.
2020 AEW was easy to predict. 2021, just when I want to get that belt, of course, it gets tougher.
Oh, yeah. In all the best ways. But we'll break that all down as far as the year that was 2021. But first, we got to pitch it over to Scholar Tarek, who still needs to make his predictions for 2022. Fool, let's pitch over to you. Make it official.
All right. Gotta just throw it right away, throw it out there. They're very quick little things. Two of them are for predictions in WWE, and one is for AEW. Because when I look at WWE, all I can think about is it's now reached that point where you gotta start building some baby faces. You gotta build up some people that you want to be wanting to represent your company. That's not Roman Reigns and Charlotte Flair. So I pick for my predictions for 2022 is, or at least for my hopes for 2022, is one, Drew McIntyre winning, specifically the Universal Championship. Just like I said in my little intro, that you need now to build up new baby faces, and Drew McIntyre last year was during the whole pandemic era, was built as one of the best people WWE had. And then after Roman came back, they kind of just halted on that. So I feel like they have to rebuild throw in some fuel of that under that flame. And I didn't, in response to what Charlie said, I didn't watch SmackDown. Honestly, I was too busy putting my children to sleep. So I didn't have time to watch anything wrestling wise to see what happened tonight. So my second prediction is to continue with that. And it's just, all my predictions are just certain people winning championships. And this one's for the women's aspect of it. They seem to keep going in the right direction, but I just they seem to want to pull the trigger, but they just was like, and just put it back on safety and just save it for another time to launch, to shoot that bullet. And that's giving Liv Morgan a women's championship. I think I'm going to be very clear how much I just gone to appreciate everything that Liv Morgan has done, how she's improved in the ring and how she's improved as a character to have someone support her. And I hope that just she's finally gonna cross that finish line and finally win a championship, and not just a champion, her first championship in WWE. I don't think she won anything on NXT.
She never won anything on NXT.
So, and with the build up with having her and Becky Lynch, it just seemed perfect. That, and as a certain purple Titan would say, inevitable. So there's that. And my final prediction hope prediction in 2020 is for the other side, the other company in AEW, is for a certain someone to win a championship, and that is Malachi Black. I just feel like he's been one of the breakout stars in AEW ever since he left WWE and jumped ship to AEW, and he's also just been picking up momentum with the crowd. He's a very popular superstar, and with Jeremy and Jeff can concur on this. When we went to the show at Prudential, he was very popular there too, and he's just been very popular with the crowd. I just feel like he needs a title, and with the rumor of what was it, Bobby King, I believe his name,
Brody King.
How is it?
Brody King.
Brody King. Okay, close enough. It begins with B. I gotta give myself credit for that. He may well be in line for a tag team championship, but I kind of want him to go for a singles belt, especially if anything, give him the TNT championship. I feel like he would be the perfect person who can take the title off Sammy Guevara.
So just to be clear, are you saying, is your prediction that he wins specifically the TNT title, or that he just wins a championship in AEW in 2022?
It's a championship in AEW because it looks like they're trying to, I don't know if it's going to be a muscle thing, or since he's already tag team champions, maybe just have him win another championship. So I'm going to just say specifically a championship.
Okay.
I want that point.
Of course you do. Of course you do. All right. Now that is in the record books, now we can kick things off to the main event of the show, which is, of course, the best and worst of 2021. We're looking back at it all. This is the 2021 Scully Awards. Now,
I don't dress up this nice for Scholars of Wrestling unless it's for the Scullies.
It is indeed a special occasion. It's the one to end them all. It's the one to end 2021. This is the Scully Awards. And kicking us off with our first category, Wrestler of the Year. Tarek, I believe it is your pick first. We're going in a different order this time. What is your pick for Wrestler of the Year?
When I went through this list, I just wanted to think who made the biggest impact. Who made the biggest impact in the year for me? And for me, it's someone who made a lasting impact when he left the WWE and is now making such a huge impact in AEW. I'm going to go for Bryan Danielson. He's been just putting on just phenomenal matches since joining AEW. It's he keeps doing different techniques to make matches much more fresh, and it definitely looks like his love for wrestling has truly been revitalized since joining AEW, and he's been putting on hell of amazing matches. And you can say the same thing when he was still in WWE as Daniel Bryan. His last match with Roman Reigns on SmackDown was one of the best matches in WWE this year. And then his triple threat WrestleMania match with Roman and Edge, and just the man has just been, left his mark this year as truly one of the best wrestlers going today. So I'm picking Bryan Danielson.
All right, good pick. Next up,
I know you would like that.
Well, you know, I'm not that I'm biased or anything. Next
no,
up,
not at
we've
all.
got Brian. It's your pick first. Next rather? Blah. Who is your wrestler of the year?
You know what? It's hard to argue with Tarek about all the points he made, so I'm not going to.
Thank you.
I've got Bryan Danielson as well as my wrestler of the year. Basically, okay, his performances at the beginning of the year in the WWE were so great that they really had no choice but to insert him into the Roman Reigns versus Edge match that they were setting up for WrestleMania. He gave them no choice, just like he did at WrestleMania 30. Except this time we knew there was no way that I believe that there was no way that he was going to win that match, but he forced his way into it for being so good the first bit of the year. And then when he left and he shows up in AEW and we actually get instead of the watered down WWE Daniel Bryan version that we've gotten all these years, we finally go back to when the guy in ROH in the Dragon Gate and all the independent scene. Like, this is the Bryan Danielson. This is the American Dragon. He's just had no bad performances this year. And even when he's beating the crap out of people in AEW, he's still putting them over by just being in the ring with him, and he's taking it to another level. It's hard to argue, and as I said, I'm not going to. Bryan Danielson.
All right. Yeah, I'll cut right to the chase. There's a lot of really deserving people who could be realistically considered to be wrestler of the year. But I also went with Bryan Danielson too, just because he was such a high performer in so many different ways. If you look at wins, if you look at prestige, if you look at everything that a wrestler could conceivably add to a company, to entertainment value, to a ring performance, every single way you can look at this, Bryan Danielson just checks so many boxes so strongly that he is an absolute contender. He should be on everyone's list as a potential wrestler of the year, in my opinion. Jeremy, pitching it over to you. Do we have a trend going, or do you have someone else in mind?
We do not have a trend going, because so far this is the toughest category for me. I give an honorable mention to Eddie Kingston because he worked his ass off. And like I said in the prediction video last week, he deserves a title. The person above Daniel Bryan who deserves it more is the man who really brought it to AEW, who left WWE and came to AEW, was CM Punk. Honorable mention number 2, best in the world. But my wrestler year had to go with the man who carried AEW on his shoulders as of Winter is Coming last year. You know him. You love him. He is the one-winged angel. It is Kenny Omega. Hands down, every performance he put out this year was classic. He ended last year as a face. He turned into a heel. He ran every single promo he did. He ran perfectly as a heel, and he represented what wrestling needed to be this year. And he did the best thing he could, was doing the long story with Hangman Adam Page and finally pushing him and putting him over to win the title at Full Gear. So Kenny Omega, take a break, come back when you're ready. And there's my wrestler of the year, hands down, boys.
All right. Great case to be made for Kenny Omega. And last
cute
but certainly
performance
not
to
least,
go with that.
What's up?
Hey, it's all in the delivery. It's all, it's all about the delivery.
Hey, I'm being actually very genuine. I'm not being a smartass. I was very entertained by that.
Thank you. I had to borrow my wife's sunglasses, by the way, for these. They look just like his. So
They do.
All right, now we're kicking it over. Last but not least, to the champ, Charlie. Your pick. Who is your pick for Wrestler of the Year?
I've picked none other than your Paul Heyman Superman punching. Acknowledge me. Head of the table, Roman Reigns.
you're fired, Charlie.
For my second year in a row. No, I'm not fired.
We don't pay any of you. You can't be fired. All right. Well, those are our picks for Wrestler of the Year. Now we're moving on to what we call the most underused wrestler of the year. Brian, it's going to be your pick first in this category. Most underused wrestler of the year.
Well, I could go to who I believe that Tarek's going to use, because he uses him every year. Maybe it's different this year, but I doubt it. But
No.
I honestly, just because he had a very good beginning of the year, I can't say that he was underused for the entire year. In that case, I'm going to go to my normal secondary pick. He's been my secondary pick for the last few years now. I'm going to go Ricochet.
Interesting.
Because other than his set of matches with John Morrison in the middle of the year leading up to Money in the Bank, when has he done anything that's mattered at all? Really, he's enhancement talent at this point, and knowing what Ricochet has done, knowing what Ricochet is capable of, he should be used more at the very least. So I'm gonna go with Ricochet for this one. So more so that this time we're not just parroting each other.
Yeah, this one this is where the division might start to be shown here. As for me, this was honestly the easiest and quickest category for me to pick. No question at all. For my most underused wrestler of the year, in my mind, there was really no question. There was only one name that came to mind, Keith Lee. Really, for someone who started off his WWE run, and especially in NXT, with such momentum, where he visibly showed off how good he was, how impressive he was with every single crossover match between the Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, all of it. We all know how good he is. But then he joined the main roster. Someone got in his ear. Someone told him to not wrestle like Keith Lee. They gave him the name Bearcat, and then I have not seen a wrestler go from top of the mountain to I have no idea what to do with this guy as fast as Keith Lee in recent memory. So,
or better yet, top of the mountain to future endeavored.
Yes, and
Well
that
said.
is just
and
this
the whole
is one of
COVID and the whole COVID and heart issue problem that he had at the beginning of the year didn't help his case at all.
Yeah.
Either way, this to me was by far one of the most disappointing releases and events from wrestling this year. Everything else I'll get to later on, but for me, the most underused wrestler when they had a chance to do a whole lot more, Keith Lee. Jeremy, we're kicking over to you. Who do you got for the most underutilized wrestler of the year?
I thought Tark was next, or am I getting the order wrong?
Oh, no, I'm
We're
after
doing a
Charlie.
revolving
Oh,
order here.
okay. For me, I went with my Jersey boy. I had to go with Sonny Kiss because he has worked his ass off so much in AEW. They were really pushing him. Early in the year, he had a lot of Dynamite matches. They bumped him down to Dark. They bumped him down to Elevation, and they've been doing a lot of good storytelling with him on a Dark and Elevation. But it just stinks because he's got so much talent. He was so pushed well. He's an advocate for the LGBT community, and he should be on the forefront of AEW because he's just been doing so well. I just feel they dropped the ball on him, and now like they're gonna do the final match between him and Joey Janela next week on Dark. I was watching, I'm like, ooh, they're gonna do the final match on Dark. I'm like, guys, put it on Dynamite. Come on, it's a good story. It's gonna be a no DQ match. So hopefully he'll get a good push in 2022 and get back on Dynamite. So, but I had to go with Sonny Kiss.
All right. All right, Charlie, we're over to you. Who is your underused wrestler of the year? Blah. Not a superstar, wrestler.
Now for this, I just feel that he's been used but not used properly. He's been in matches but not title matches. And for that, I'm going with Jungle Boy. I feel have a TNT championship or a tag team championship under his belt at this point in the fight, and he's just not getting there.
All right, another very interesting pick. I like it. Tarek, take us home. Who is your pick for underused superstar of the year?
Do I really have to give this? Because you guys already know what it is.
Well, you got to make it official, sir. You might as well just put it out there so we can move on.
I know what Brian said. It was talking about when he was giving his thing about how he actually was given stuff, but like he was given his WrestleMania moment. He was given a world championship match, but all those are pretty much just completely swept under the rug. I mean, he won his match against Seth Rollins, but yet that was completely devalued literally months later, where Seth Rollins initially won the feud, and then he went back to complete irrelevancy. And for his world championship attempt, he wasn't even he was like the third wheel in his chance to go for a world championship. It wasn't even about Cesaro. It was about Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan. And now he's gone to the point of complete irrelevancy. In my personal opinion, he should have his last real match that I saw, because I don't know if he did anything tonight. He got completely destroyed. He got completely destroyed by Cesaro. Well, my choice is Cesaro, but he got completely destroyed by Sheamus in their match a couple of weeks ago, and he was the one that has so much trying to find emotional baggage behind him, because Sheamus is like, oh, you're a weakling, you held me back. And Cesaro replied that it was real to him. His time with Sheamus with the Bar was real for him. And then it just ends up like, oh yeah, it was essentially the Booker T Triple H booking, where he was a loser, and then he was a loser in their tag team, and Sheamus beat him to prove him right. So, and now he's at that point where he isn't completely irrelevant, even though he's still very popular with crowds. So yeah, I'm gonna go until Cesaro has that one moment where he's not the loser for anyone, where he actually has a storyline, or he's actually a well-utilized talent. Again, he'll always be in this spot for me, because he is completely deserving of so much more than WWE is giving him. And I'm very I'm going to count down the time when his contract is up, just so he can get the hell out of there, because they obviously Vince never saw anything in him, and his booking continues to show that, and it's sad.
All right,
put him in AEW and make the world happy. There you go.
All right, taking it home real nice. Next category we've got is Breakout Star of the Year. First pick goes to me. And this one, I had a couple different names in mind, but after looking at the year in review and everything else happened, I sort of strayed off the beaten path a little bit here because there was some more surprises than we initially thought. And this person ended up, there were a whole lot of people who had a lot of really great years, a lot of really great matches. But this person in particular, I'm giving it to the one who surprised me the most. There are some people who just, when you see them, you know what to expect out of them. This pick was the one who surprised me most and blew my expectations out of the water by far. And for this one, I'm going to go with, believe it or not, Matt Cardona. I feel like, yeah, because if you really think about it, as soon as he hit the independent scene, he's been just like bopping around from place to place to place, starting with GCW and actually having that incredible death match with Nick Gage of all people. And ever since then, he's been popping up all over the place. He just recently, he's been in Impact Wrestling with Chelsea Green. Now he's apparently just going after the NWA championship hopefully soon to be competing for the title against Trevor Murdoch. I mean, like, what year are we in? But you want to talk about people who are underutilized now. Matt Cardona, in my eyes, has had like the breakout year where, like I said, there's a lot of big names who have had really great years and have really excelled. Matt Cardona is the one guy who, in my mind anyway, has really elevated himself from where he was. And he's got the biggest reinvention, in my mind, of the entire year, bar none. That being said, Jaybird, do you woo you know it, or do you think something else?
You mean that? But no, you swerved me. I actually didn't even think about Matt Cardona this year. I'm surprised. That's me slacking in my getting up in the years. But but you're right about all those points you made. For me, it was interesting watching a lot of the guys young and up and coming. But it had to be Sammy Guevara who blew me away this year. He has been on fire. Like, he started out as he comes in as a Spanish god, and he was a little shit. Like, no one liked him. I'm here. I'm the best. My hair's all this, and he could throw down, but he never could back it up. And he started growing on me. I'm like, okay, he's annoying, but he's starting to grow on me. He's teaming with Jericho. He's doing the inner circle. He's really coming into his own. And then he did something which I did not think was possible, which I thought was a very good way to build young talent. He beat Miro for the TNT title. I watched that and I'm like, he's going to get killed. Miro's going to eat him alive. He ate Fuego a week ago. He's going to eat Sammy alive. And I'm just like, okay. He hits the GTH. He goes up top, and I'm like, if he hits the 630, he's going to win, or it's going to be the biggest crash and burn. And he hit the 630. He pinned him, and I'm like, okay, kid, you just got the push of your life. You just earn my respect, and I think it's going to be his year next year with how good he is in the ring. And he wowed me. Like, that 630 is disgusting, and the fact that he was able to knock off the unbeatable Miro in AEW, that's how you do it. That's how you build a star, being young and actually starting them at one level and taking them to the next level in their sophomore year of wrestling.
All right, good pick. Pitching it over to Charlie. It's your pick next for Breakout Star of the Year.
Mine is also from AEW. I picked Dante Martin.
Oh, that was my second pick. Anyway, continue.
He just puts on hell of matches whenever he's in the ring, and he's definitely one to watch as he makes it to that next level in AEW.
All right.
He's disgusting, dude, of how high he can jump.
He is good. Tarek, it's your pick next up for Breakout Star of the Year.
This one is actually going to be very different from how I've done things in the past. And I've even hinted at who it's going to be earlier with my 2022 predictions. It's my breakout star is Liv Morgan. She's improved so much that when I think about the Riot Squad days, I always looked at her as sort of the weak link of the group, and she's just like, oh, she's just the rag doll. But now she's just improved so much in the ring. She's become actually full-fledged character that I can end up supporting, and I want her to actually win. Granted, her booking this year has been completely horrible, and I mean, I made it perfectly clear I feel like she should have won the women's Money in the Bank instead of Nikki ASH. She was just one of those people that I feel like could be a star for WWE, like how they want to push these people, especially for people for outside purposes, for the real world that WWE is so hard to be a part of. I feel like she can be one of those people that could be a big part of it. Honestly, like her and maybe even Rhea Ripley could be, because with Charlotte saying now she's the future face of the company. But I really do have a soft spot now for Liv Morgan. I want her to just keep achieving, and I just feel like she's improved so much that she actually beat everyone else to be breakout star of the year for me.
All right. And last but not least, we got Brian. Who is your breakout star of the year?
Charlie thinks he's underutilized. I really don't think so. I've got Jungle Boy as my breakout star of the year, because basically, okay, looking at the record books in AEW, out of everybody in that company, he's got the most wins out of anybody. Second, in a battle royal with legends, going with legends, who whether you like him or not, okay, dude's a legend. I'm sorry. That's what it is.
It really isn't.
And Jungle Boy was getting chance and all that, and Jungle Boy wins. He
He's a
took
legend
Kenny
at
Omega.
failures.
He got Kenny Omega he took Kenny Omega to the limit. Okay, and I think out of the four pillars that they're talking about, okay, after MJF, it's like I think Jungle Boy takes the title from MJF. So at this point, so it's like I really don't, out of everybody, okay, I think with the crowd reactions that he gets and the match quality that he has, and he's been in the limelight for what, maybe a year and a half now, 2 years maybe.
Yeah.
In the limelight, yeah. For me, that's all the makings of a breakout star.
All right. Next category on deck, we've got Tag Team of the Year. And Jaybird, it is your pick first. Who do you got for Tag Team of the Year?
Surprisingly, it's to a team that hasn't won the tag title belts in AEW. And these guys grew on me. They came out of nowhere when they first debuted, but I had to go with the Butcher and the Blade. They are two big, tough, rough Buffalo guys who come in and will kick your ass all around the ring, and I'm waiting to see them get the belts in the next couple of years. It's just, I love every aspect. The music, they're with the bunny, like they come in and just the Smash Mouth style. It just reminds me of old school, like Demolition and like the Road Warriors back in the day. And the fact that like their finishing move is called Drag the Lake, which is a song from Every Time I Die, who is the Butcher's band, which is still pretty badass in all essence. So I love those guys. I think they are they're the best and most underused tag team in AEW, but anytime they're on TV, I'm like, you have my full attention, gentlemen.
All right. Next pick, we've got Charlie. Who is your tag team of the year?
It is a team that has won the AEW Tag Team Championships, and that is the Lucha Bros. And
Nice.
I'm going to circle back around to them later on when they first caught my attention. But ever since then, I've been holding on and just paying attention and been a full-fledged fan of all their work.
All right. Tarek, tag team of the year. Who do you got?
It's actually really funny because when I'm thinking about this category, I was just like, have there been any tag teams that really blew me away this year? And honestly, no. Like, and I'm a big tag team guy, and I'm just like, wow, nothing, like, when it comes to tag teams this year, like nothing has really blew my mind. So I pretty much just looked at all my favorite tag team matches this year, and I'm just like, okay, who has been a part of it? And funny enough, to repeat with Charlie, I'm also going to go with Lucha Bros.
Yeto.
Because out of every tag team I've basically been watching this year, those two are just have been constantly putting on my favorite tag team matches. So it would be kind of silly for me to not choose otherwise. So yeah, Lucha Bros.
All right, Scholar Brian, who do you got for tag team of the year?
Once again, seems to be a condition I have on this particular day. It's very hard to argue certain points, so I'm not going to. Yeah, it's just one of those. They're in one of my favorite matches of the year, possibly match of the year. Okay, and every time they're on my screen, they do something that makes my jaw drop. So it's just they're consistent. They're consistently awesome, and out of every tag team this year, they were a relative unknown coming into this year. Like I could go to an age-old standard and go the Usos because they've held the titles for most of the year. I could do that, but it's like they're like the old standard. They're very consistent in what they do. They don't show me anything new in any of their matches. Whereas with the Lucha Bros, it's like they do something in every match where it's like I didn't know that was possible. I didn't know a human could actually do that. And so there's no doubt in my mind that the tag team of the year is the Lucha Bros.
And I am going to absolutely wholeheartedly agree with that sentiment. This one was another easy one for me. Not only am I a fan of Pentel Zero Miedo for some time, but when I look back at the year in wrestling, every single show I've watched on TV, on pay-per-view, and even ones I attended live this year, the one common denominator in most of them is that the Lucha Bros pretty much put on the match of the night week after week, night after night, so consistently. It honestly got me excited for tag team wrestling in a way that I haven't felt in honestly years. So it's been great to see them excel. It's been great to see the matches that they put on. I have no choice but to give Lucha Bros tag team of the year. That being said, now we move on to our next category, feud of the year. That first pick goes to you, Charlie. Who do you have for feud of the year?
Of course, I'm first picking the article in the subject that I feel is a throwaway for me this year, but whatever, it is what it is. They didn't feud for long, but when they did, you could feel how real it was between the two of them, and they have a past rivalry that trumps most rivalries. Charlotte and Becky Lynch.
Very interesting. Tarek, your pick for feud of the year.
This is going to be one that I just choose off the top of my head because honestly, I've even talked to Brian about this earlier today. I honestly have no feud of the year. It's now just basically pick whatever feud. It's the low hanging fruit, as he put it, when he was making his choices. And honestly, I'm just gonna choose Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. This is a throwaway, as Charlie put it. This is a throwaway category for me. Nothing. There hasn't been a feud that was just like, ooh, let's just sink my teeth into.
Yeah.
But I get as of right now, it seems to be the one true feud that's actually gained that WWE is showing any interest in, and the fact that I'm actually choosing it is showing because I'm like, I could choose pretty much anything in AEW, but this is just low hanging fruit, and this is a throwaway. Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar.
All right, Brian.
I wish I could give a better answer, but I really
it is what it is.
I even asked Brian. I'm like, honestly, I had nothing. I actually asked him, like, is it a cheat that I choose something different with this? Because I was going to choose Daniel Bryan's storyline going into the AEW World Championship tournament, just him versus everyone in AEW. But he's like, that's not a feud. That's a storyline. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I can't argue that. But I had nothing. I really had nothing this year.
Brian, your pick. Who do you have? Do you have something?
It's actually okay if you think about it. It's a long-term deal because in the build up to the actual match, they only did the story for a couple months. But if you look over the storyline as a whole, it's actually been about maybe a year and a half to 2 years in the making for the whole feud and storyline to come to a head and come to the obvious finish. Sometimes an obvious finish is good. Yes, I'm talking about Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page. It's like, the actual feud leading up to the match was maybe a month and a half, whatever. But if you look back at the entire storyline leading up to it, okay, this is a feud that's been in the making and been in the works, and they've been going in and out, and even everything that Hangman Page was doing that had nothing to do with Kenny, that seemingly had nothing to do with Kenny Omega, when you actually look at it and think about it, it had everything to do with Kenny Omega. So it's like year and a half in the making, you get the happy ending finish, and it's a storyline that the build up of it and the execution of it was so great that it made Hangman Page like the most over person in AEW right now, and it's built up through his feud with Kenny Omega, and whether that month and a half that it was actually on TV was the best thing you'd seen or not. Okay, if you look at the subtle nuances in both people's characters throughout the year, it was always about each other. So even though you only actually saw it for a month and a half, it's been a feud for about a year and a half now.
I'll tell you what, I really can't argue with any of that, and I'm not going to, because that was my same pick for all the reasons you just described. It was, the momentum was a little stop-starty due to injuries and childbirth and all that. But the payoff, most important of all, the payoff was there. It was satisfying, and it's exactly what we wanted. And it made a new star. I can't argue with it. Yeah, that's my pick too for feud of the year. Jaybird, take us home. Who's your feud of the year?
You boys actually said it both. I'm in the same boat. It was Hangman and Kenny Omega because they did the story so well. They started with the tag belts. They broke up. They had the World Eliminator at Full Gear last year. And then with childbirth and injuries, they had to stop the storyline for a while. They did one of the best, which was they did the Dark Order and Hangman against the Elite. And then it was the tag titles, the tag title shot and the world title shot on the line. They squashed Hangman. He walked away for a while and then he came back and just to get his revenge. You don't see it often when a wrestler was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe I don't have it. Maybe I can beat him. Maybe I cannot. And he just walks away and then he comes back recharged and they made a star out of him. That was feud of the year. That's why I love AEW's long storytelling, just because like Brian said, and you both said, it was maybe a month and a half build up, but it was a good year and a half program that they put together and they did it perfectly.
All right, there it is. Next category we've got is worst feud of the year. And Tarek, you're back to the top of the order. Who do you got for worst feud of the year?
This one was very easy for me. This one had a feud that, even though the feud initially ended at WrestleMania, they decided to keep the feud going and have the same type of matches over and over and over for the next couple months, which even had it end up being a commercial for someone else's movie that had zombies in it. I'm going to pick Damien Priest versus The Miz.
Okay.
Even though they had a great tag team match with wow, what is his name?
Bad Bunny.
Bad Bunny. I know, I know it's something Bunny. Bad Bunny. But yeah, they decided to keep that storyline going with literally nothing other than just, hey, we just need a match for Raw. And now let's have it be a commercial for Batista's new zombie movie, which ends up with John being a non-canon match with John Morrison and The Miz getting eaten by zombies. God, this is so goddamn stupid. So yeah, I'm picking Damien Priest versus The Miz.
All right, Brian, who you got for worst feud of the year?
Like, I hadn't even thought of that, but now thinking back on it, woof. That whole, but you know what? I'm not gonna. I'm gonna do one that's more. I'm a big fan. It actually just happened, and it was more the way they built up to the match itself. I'm a big fan of Toni Storm. I always have been, and the way that they built up that feud for Toni Storm versus Charlotte Flair for their title match, it's like they're just pieing each other.
Who could take pie to the face better?
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, because that's how you build a title match. So I'm just like that. That's how you're going to treat one of your up and comers who are. I know I shouldn't expect any better from the WWE, but it's still like this is one of the best up and comers that you've got. Okay, you almost squandered it with Liv Morgan. She was able to get her momentum back in order after Money in the Bank. But it's like this is a woman who should be leading your division with Liv Morgan going forward, and your way to get her into the title picture is yeah, we're just got to see how many pies each other could take to the face. So it's like, no. So my worst feud of the year is Toni Storm versus Charlotte.
All right. Unfortunately, my pick is also in the women's division of WWE, but for this one, I'm going to go with I'm going to go with Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch. Just because on Bianca, is not that she underperformed, but Bianca Belair was shown what the WWE really thinks of her, and just that super quick loss on the same day of Becky's return, that was just insulting. And frankly, I've been tired of Becky Lynch even long before she even went out, and now she comes back and she's even more bland. I've had enough of this nonsense. I didn't care for this at all, and it was very disheartening. Jaybird, who do you got for worst feud of the year?
Wow, Jeff, you bring up a good point on that with Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair. But the biggest issue I have with wrestling right now is if the feuds are boring. And the most boring feud of the year was Goldberg versus Lashley. That
Damn it!
How dare you agree with each other? How dare you?
That feud had nothing and had no progress to any form of wrestling this year. It was it sucked. His son being there was boring. His fake injury was boring. That feud was the biggest waste of time for me. And I don't even watch WWE anymore. Just watching the pay-per-view build up, I'm like, what the hell is this?
You beat up my son. I'm going to kill you.
Oh my God, it was awful.
All right. On that delightful note, Charlie, take us home. Who do we have a consensus here for worst feud of the year?
Bobby Lashley Goldberg.
I agree with my friends. This sucks.
That was awful.
What a great reaction that was.
All right.
It was.
All right.
And the
Next
deadpan
category.
delivery- And the deadpan delivery of the Lashley Goldberg.
It's a living. All right. Speaking of It's a Living, next category, match of the year. Something a little bit more fun. Brian, it's your pick first. What's your match of the year?
I'm gonna do an honorable mention first, just so everybody doesn't think I'm shitting on WWE the entire time that we're talking about this.
They deserve it.
My second pick is Edge versus Seth Rollins in the Hell in a Cell match that they had, because that was the best Hell in a Cell match I've seen in years. But my actual pick for match of the year is I've already mentioned them. It's Lucha Bros versus the Young Bucks in the steel cage match at All Out. Like, they're doing stuff off the steel cage that I never even thought of, and stuff that I've never seen before, and it was high paced, and there were no screw ups, and I was on the edge of my seat the entire time, and it was just 30 to 40 minutes of greatness all involved. And I'll tell you what, AEW, the last few years, okay, my favorite matches have been their tag team matches. So it's like AEW knows how to do good tag team matches, because I think for at least the last 2 years, my matches of the year have been AEW tag team matches. So keep it going. AEW, bringing back tag team wrestling to the forefront.
Absolutely. And you know what? That's my pick for match of the year too. I called it as soon as I watched it. It was just paced so brilliantly. There's so much to enjoy. And one of my favorite tag teams in the world today won the tag belt. So it was a win on every single conceivable level. It's my pick too. Jeremy, it's your pick next. What do you got for match of the year?
We're going to go 3 for 3 because that match, Lucha Brothers versus Young Bucks, was absolutely disgusting from beginning to end. The super kick with the thumbtacks on the shoe was ridiculous. Oh, that makes me cringe. That just the high flying spots. One of my favorite moments, not from the match, was that I was watching it via the stream and they win, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm halfway to a perfect card. And then friggin' Charlie has to pick Ruby Soho and squash my dreams. But it was just, I woke up my wife because I was like, I'm halfway there. I was freaking out. Just, I had so much emotion invested in that match because that was the match you and I, Brian, disagreed on. You picked Bucks, I picked Lucha Brothers, and I was just like, oh, I hope I get him on this one. And then, it was just from, they did this storytelling so well in that match. I've watched that match so many times on YouTube, and the intros were absolutely disgusting too. Those are intros of the year for me right there. With the rap star doing the version of the Lucha Bros theme was absolutely amazing.
All right, Charlie, almost over to you. Who do you got for match of the year?
Make that 4 Lucha Brothers, Young Bucks, All Out.
All right,
Not only did I have to agree with my rival on this one, Brian, but looking at my list, everything that is in the future topics that are coming up on this have either been mentioned or we talked about before going on the air tonight.
Now the patterns are emerging. Tarek, take us home. Who do you got for match of the year?
Well, I'm gonna have to break this chain with you guys. My match of the year is pretty much the end point of what a couple of your guys had feud of the year. I'm gonna go with Kenny Omega versus Hangman Adam Page.
At Full Gear?
It's at Full Gear. Yep.
Nice.
It's mainly just I didn't look at it through the feud point of view. I looked at it at Adam Page's whole character development since losing against Chris Jericho at the very beginning, and just his whole redemption arc, just him leading to his drinking and him getting kicked out of the Elite and then getting picked back up by the Dark Order, and just a huge redemption arc for him as a character and as a wrestler. And I legit had tears in my eyes when the Young Bucks basically gave their nod of approval of allowing Adam Page to finish the match big. So, and I couldn't have been more happy that he won it. And I was so emotionally invested in it. So yeah, Kenny Omega versus Hangman Adam Page, AEW World Championship, Full Gear.
Nice.
All right. That being said, let's move on from something really happy to something really miserable. Let's get pissed off for a second here. Let's talk about the worst match of the year. And my pick first, and this one was very easy for me. It may not have been the worst match by many people's standards, but for me, it was by far the most disappointing. And I am talking about Bray Wyatt versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania.
That one hurts.
For all the pomp and circumstance, all the WrestleMania level entrances and all of that, even the bulk of the match itself was very palatable. The way it ended, everything came to such a screeching halt. Alexa Bliss betraying the Fiend, one RKO and done, and lo and behold, that's the last time we ever see the Fiend on TV. That is such absolute crap. Like, I'm a big believer that you can do anything in the world of wrestling as long as the payoff is right. This is the absolute worst payoff I have ever seen in years. I'm going to say easily, just again, from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows. Like, you really got to go out of your way to disappoint me here. And
when
we found a way to do it. So yeah,
when
that's all I got to say. I'm pitching it off.
When your crowd that is in the arenas for the first time in a long time, and this is what you're banking your pay-per-view on, when your crowd is chanting bullshit the first match of the night, okay, because of what happens at the end of it, okay, you know you're in for a bad time. And that's it. And that's what happened after that match.
Yeah. Jaybird, who do you got for worst match of the year?
Before I say, I just have to agree with you, Jeff, because I remember we were having such a good time at Mania, just watching all the matches, and then we were all hyped, like, come on, Fiend, come on, and we were just like, what? And like the whole mood changed. I remember after that changed sucked all the energy out of the party. I was like, did that just, but anyway, I digress. But for me, I have to go back 4 months before WrestleMania, which Tark and I can agree with this at this moment. For me, it was the Royal Rumble. It was the last man standing match of Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns. The friggin' the handcuff spot.
Oh, I forgot that was this year.
Blew the handcuff spot. Guys, you turn the camera away. It's not rocket science. That January is when WWE died for me with that match. That's what killed it. I'm trying not to bitch at them a lot because they've just been digging their own grave, but that was the nail in the coffin for me. Well, the Bray Wyatt situation 4 months later, but that was the first nail in the coffin where I'm like, they're like 6, 7, 8, and he can't get the handcuffs off. And then they're like, what do I do? Do I count? What do I do? I'm like, you move the camera away. You maybe have Owens bump into him. You get the camera off him until you get the cuffs off. Guys, you ruined I'm sorry, that match just, dear God, that match, like, oh my God, like, I swear if AEW did that match, they would have done something. They would have lit a firecracker off just to get the cameraman away from him. But it's just, that match killed friggin' WWE pay-per-views for me just because it was that awful. And then the choke out at the end with Owens, I was like, I'm sorry, just that match aggravates me. But yeah, that's worst match of the year was Last Man Standing at Rumble.
All right. Charlie, what is your pick for worst match of the year?
Damien Priest versus The Miz at WrestleMania Backlash.
The commercial.
The zombie? The zombie?
Just awful. They went from having a standout match at WrestleMania to zombie commercials. No. Just
all right. Tarek, it's your pick. Who do you got for worst match of the year?
I'm going to second you, fool, and I'm also going to choose Randy Orton versus The Fiend because we were so emotionally invested in that storyline, and the fact that they changed the result of that match the day of WrestleMania just because Vince McMahon is just like, no, let's just have Randy Orton win. Completely ruined anything that they were going for. And it's just one of the continuing stepping stones that led to me and inevitably just stop caring about what WWE does. So yeah, Randy Orton versus The Fiend at WrestleMania.
All right, Brian, take us home. Who do you got for worst feud of the year?
And I'm going to go with a match that Jeff has already spoken about, feud-wise, because that's the match which made me the angriest at the end of it, basically because of how they executed it and how they tried to make it happen. You actively made me dislike my favorite female performer. Okay, I'm going with Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair SummerSlam because holy shit, did you drop the ball in so many ways. Okay, you had a returning beloved superstar. The pop that she got when she first came out and what it turned into by the end of it it's amazing how much goodwill you can lose in 30 seconds.
But we learned that night, didn't we?
Yeah, and Jaybird wants to talk about the moment that he tuned off of WWE. That was the moment where I'm like, why do I care about any of these people?
Yep.
That's it.
Oh yes. Now let's get positive again for a moment. Let's talk about the pay-per-view of the year. Jaybird, it's your pick first. Which was your pay-per-view of the year?
If you know me, it's fairly simple. It was All Out. All Out was it was amazing stack card. I wish I looked up all the matches, but it was just from beginning to end. It was just like it was what was it? Lucha Brothers versus Bucks, Kenny versus Christian. It was just every match on the card was just on point. They were just hitting their stride, and like I missed the first 2 or 3 matches because I couldn't get the stream to work, and then I watched the pay-per-view and then I rewatched the replay, and it just hit every single moment from like just I enjoyed the what was it, the Casino Battle Royal was great. The pre-show was awesome. It was just every single match on that card just hit their stride and really set the bar for like how high AEW has set like pay-per-view standards. And actually the pay-per-view of all the ones we watched together, I had the most fun. I know we weren't all together for All Out, but it was just of all the pay-per-views, it was the most fun I had all year.
All right, Charlie, who do you got for pay-per-view of the year?
I second Jeremy on that one with All Out 2021. If you could have me watch a pay-per-view from a hotel room on nothing but my cellular device and have me be at the edge of my seat throughout 90% of the event, it's the pay-per-view of the year for me. And that's exactly what All Out did.
All right, Tarek, pitching over to you. Which show was pay-per-view of the year for you?
3 for 3, All Out.
All right, I'm sensing a trend here. Brian, are we forming an accord here?
I could try to argue, but why? it's look, it's like Jaybird said. There was even the piss break match on this show didn't completely suck. I'm like, everything was good, and the Paul White match, the random Paul White match, didn't
suck. I was actually watching that.
it didn't suck. So that was the only one I was actually worried about, and it did all right. So it's like and of course with the ending, that when you have a card of that caliber and everything goes well, and then you end it like that, okay, there's no way, there's no possible way that anything else.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. We got an accord here.
Nice.
All Out was just, it was too good. It was as perfect as a wrestling card can get. And yeah, I got nothing else to add. Pay-per-view of the year, easy.
Real quick,
Yes,
Jeff.
Jaybird.
It was Best Friends in Jungle Express versus the Hardy Family Office, Miro versus Eddie Kingston, Moxley versus Satoshi Kojima, Britt Baker versus Chris Statlander, Lucha Brothers versus Bucks. Ruby Soho won that. Jericho versus MJF, Punk versus Darby Allin, Paul White versus QT Marshall, and Omega versus Christian. That's an amazing card. That's an amazing card.
Paced too damn well.
Yep.
Too damn well.
That would have bugged me all night. Sorry to interrupt, but that would have driven me crazy all night.
Speaking of driving us crazy, let's go to the negative side of life. Maybe one more time. We're in the home stretch. Don't worry. Let's talk about worst pay-per-view of the year. And Charlie, it's your pick. Who do you got worst pay-per-view of the year?
For reason that we have, a few of us have gone over already tonight, and none other than that, basically, because that's what really stands out from this event. SummerSlam 2021. You had you had Ashley Goldberg and you had Bianca Belair getting squashed. It just overall was not a good event.
All right, Tarek, who do you got for worst pay-per-view of the year?
I feel like this is going to be another accord for us, because I just remember all of us watching it and just how bad of a show it was that we turned hard on this one. Like we pretty much stopped watching it. Like it was at that point where we just didn't care anymore. And this was kind of like that final, like one of those final nails where I just stopped caring at all about what WWE gives, because honestly, they don't care about us at all. So yeah, I'm going to also go with SummerSlam.
All right, Brian, it's your pick. Worst pay-per-view of the year.
Yeah. What I want to be different,
But it's hard.
but I could say Survivor Series because it was a glorified super show house show that nothing happened on, and but at least that had nothing that made me psychotically pissed off. Whereas SummerSlam had multiple instances of me being psychotically pissed off and basically put the nail in the coffin of any hopes that I had that they were going to build new people in the right fashion. Because as we've already talked about, okay, Bianca Belair could have been your cash cow going into, and you wouldn't have had to do what you had to do with her at Survivor Series to try to get her heat back if you hadn't have done what you did at SummerSlam. And so it's just because SummerSlam is the one event that made me so psychotically angry that Tarek could hear it when we were talking over the phone. When we were talking about the event, I really can't argue any of the points that were made, because it's like I was raging over the phone to Tarek about everything that was going on, and there was no other pay-per-view that actually had me that angry.
Well, I'll tell you what, as bad as that show was, I'm going to go a little bit different. I'm actually going to go with Survivor Series this year, mostly because this one was a show to me that I came so very close to attending live. It was in our backyard. And I was kept going back and forth for months thinking, okay, is this going to be worth it? Do I really want to shell out all this money for decent seats? Am I going to see a good show? And when I actually sat down and watched it, I decided not to get tickets, which I was so relieved that I made the right choice, but I was so unhappy about it. I'm like, of course, why should I expect anything different at this point? And it sucks because it used to be one of the biggest wrestling shows of the year, bar none. And it's just another show to them now. And it's for sheer disappointment. I'm just going to go Survivor Series. I have no more words. Jaybird, last words on worst pay-per-view of the year.
I got to go with the other guys, unfortunately, Jeff. It was SummerSlam.
How dare you have your own opinion?
No, but you had tweet of the year. You said I paid I paid $9.99 for SummerSlam.
I paid $5 for SummerSlam. I'm the sucker with the ads on Peacock.
No, you said it best. I paid $5. I paid $5 for SummerSlam, and I paid $49.99 for All Out.
The $50 for All Out.
The prices, the quality of the pay-per-view, speak of the prices, or whatever. However you put it in that tweet. That was the best
tweet. Both prices were appropriate for what we got.
That was the best tweet. That was the best tweet, because all I'm going to say is WWE ruined my favorite pay-per-view. That is because it's my birthday month, Charlie and I's birthday month, but it's like the fact that him and I always would get hyped over SummerSlam, and they fucking ruined it. And I'm like, dear God, like I was just like everyone has said, we weren't even like paying attention. We were on our phones, we were BSing, we were just going outside. It sucked to where literally when we got the All Out stream, I got a renewal. I was like, okay, now I'm definitely feeling it again. But just SummerSlam 2021. Thanks, WWE. You ruined my birthday month, and you ruined my favorite pay-per-view.
And you kicked my dog. So yeah, next category we've got. I don't even have a dog. We've got Women's Wrestler of the Year. Tarek, it is your pick first. Who do you got for Women's Wrestler of the Year?
And he kicked my dog. Nice job. You killed him.
And he's dead. Moving on.
This is so abrupt for me. I was not expecting that at all.
Neither was the dog.
Oh, no.
All right. Do you need a minute full or are you good?
No, I'm good. Women's Wrestler of the Year. I feel like this is kind of an easy one. When your women's wrestler ends up becoming a bloody mess, you have no choice but to make her Woman of the Year. I'm going to go with Britt Baker, DMD.
DMD. Nice.
All right. Brian, who do you got for Women's Wrestler of the Year?
Yeah, I kind of feel like this is going to be another consensus pick because really she's one of the faces of your company. And considering how she started out in your company, like that's a big jump. And she's had many iconic moments this year. She's really come into her own. There's really like if they had kept the momentum up, I could see a comparison between Bianca Belair and Britt Baker, but with what they did at the end of the year, I can no longer put Bianca Belair up there, which means it's an obvious pick for Britt Baker. Britt Baker massacred this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I came very close. I really wanted to put Bianca Belair. She's absolutely an honorable mention. She did have a phenomenal year in her own right until she sort of hit that roadblock like we talked about.
That is Becky Lynch, yeah.
Yeah, and we got to give it to Britt Baker at this point, in my eyes. And oh boy, I cannot wait to see that rematch between her and Thunder Rosa. That one is going to tear the roof off the place.
That's going to be amazing.
It is. Jaybird, who do you got for Women's Wrestler of the Year?
I actually can't go with Adam Cole's girlfriend for once. The woman who wowed me the most was Chris Statlander. When she came back at the Arcade Arcade Anarchy match, and then shoved the glass in Penelope Ford's face, and then just came back and went on I think it was a 13-match winning streak, and then she lost to Britt Baker at All Out. It was a great run for her, and she's just going to be amazing in the future. I love the alien persona. I love her character, and the fact she came back from an ACL tear is amazing. Like, she was on the shelf for almost a year, and then all of a sudden, it was just one of the biggest pops I saw on Dynamite, when all of a sudden you see her stand up in the crane game and just see the glass go in Penelope's Ford's face. I'm like, all right, let's see what we got going, honey. Go get that belt. But I want to see what she can do in the future. And she's just absolutely amazing as the Galaxy's favorite alien and a best friend.
All right, Charlie, take us home. Who is your pick for Women's Wrestler of the Year?
On paper, I chose Bianca Belair. But after hearing you guys, I have to switch that to Britt Baker.
Nice.
Because Belair, she had WrestleMania, she had Royal Rumble, she was the sole survivor at Survivor Series. But as we've stated many times tonight, SummerSlam happened. So yeah, I'm going with Britt Baker. She just absolutely consistently crushed it this year.
All right. Now we come at long last to our big two. First off, we're going to go to the Need of Clear Liquid Award. This is an award for the uninitiated that we give to the worst moment of the year, where we just need to cleanse that palate. We need some clear liquid to clear our minds and our throats of the mess we just had to endure this year. And Brian, it is your pick first. What moment in your mind merits the Need of Clear Liquid Award?
It wouldn't be a particular moment. It encompasses the entire year. And I think that many of you are going to agree with me. It's the WWE and their HR practices. That's it.
Yep.
how many people did they fire this year? I'm thinking
Yep.
about.
Somewhere in the 80s.
I'm
Yeah.
thinking like somewhere in there. I'm
Yeah.
just like, dude, a good. It was just like once a month. You're just watching on Twitter as names get fired over and over and over and over, and it's not like the old days where it's just like, oh, I expect these people to get fired. They're to get. They say released. We all know what it means. It's It's
Budget
just like
cuts.
you expect like the lower names, the jobbers and the people who aren't really doing anything to get fired and all that. But this year it was the Alistair Blacks, it was the Keith Lees, it was the Bray Wyatts, it was the Buddy Murphys, it was the Andrades, it's just each time a name came out and we're like, what the fuck are you doing, bro? and
Yeah.
and it's just, and every single time we've come on here to talk about it and we're just like, well,
Another day at the office.
but it's just like it, it that's when you get the list of the topics and the awards that we're doing this year, and the first and when you're looking through the list and the easiest one to pop into your head is the Need of Clear Liquid Award, okay, that's not a good look. And this year it's the WWE and their HR department. That's it.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to take this one step further because, again, think of this however you will, but I've got an ongoing theory that there needs to be a certain point in every fandom that they have to have a breaking point. There's only so much that a WWE viewer can take before they completely give up on the product. Some people haven't gone that far yet. Some people are still getting some enjoyment out of it. Others, like ourselves, we just endured too much. We reached that breaking point. And for me, that breaking point, the most disappointing thing I've endured this year was the release of Bray Wyatt. That Bray Wyatt was really by far my biggest thing I got invested in, second only to Keith Lee. And and Bray Wyatt, of all people, one of the biggest acts they've got, one of the biggest money movers, was just cast aside because he was too difficult to work with, because he dared to be creative and not fall in and not just follow orders like a good little soldier, or whatever the case is. Like, that was by far the most disappointing, disheartening thing I ever expected. Like, none of it here is a stranger to any of my rants, any of my objections. It's one thing to be critical of Roman Reigns when he's just a corporate stooge. It's another thing. It's one thing to be a Daniel Bryan supporter and just really want him to win the title and really pushing him and chanting, yes, yes, yes. It's another thing entirely when WWE doesn't just not give you what you want. It's when they're actively taking things from you, taking away things that you enjoy and breaking your heart. And I've never experienced anything like that in my almost 30 years of wrestling fandom. And they threw it at me all at once. And this is their declarative statement to me personally, that they don't give a damn about me. And they tossed out everything I like, everything I love. The kind of wrestling I love no longer exists in WWE, and I have no confidence in them as a company at all. And it all came to a head with releasing Bray Wyatt. On that note, Jeremy, who do you got for Need of Clear Liquid?
I'm a little scared right now, Jeff, but
They broke my heart, Fredo.
That's Frodo. Thank you very much.
You ain't no Hobbit. I'm quoting the friggin' Godfather. Whatever.
I didn't like The Godfather, actually. Anyway, it's a different topic.
How dare you?
Everyone likes cannolis.
I'm not getting
Continue.
into those conversations. Anyway, but for me, I got to go with Brian. It's WWE. I am counting and praying that Vince steps down. Dude, step down, fire everyone. Let Stephanie and Triple H take over, and let's rebuild this company from the ground up. Get rid of Vince, get rid of Bruce Pritchard, their whole HR department. Let Triple H take over and just redo the entire company because you guys suck terribly. I've never been more like okay, Jeff, you had it when they released Bray Wyatt. They broke my heart 21 years ago at WrestleMania 2000 when they let Triple H retain the title at WrestleMania 2000. That was the day I stopped giving a shit about WWE. 21 years ago at that pay-per-view. I was hyped to see Mick Foley win that belt and finally shut up the corporation, but no, it had to be that way. I've had a very bad burn from WWE for 21 plus years, and after the shit I've seen this year, I'm done with them. I got rid of the WWE app. I don't want anything else to do with them, and all I want to see is literally Vince step down, Triple H take over, and I want to see AEW become the #1 wrestling promotion in the world. That's what I want. So WWE, bye.
All right, Charlie, let us know what you think. Which moment is in need of clear liquid?
The collective 2021 releases, especially Bray Wyatt. Jeff already hit the nail on that.
All right. Tarek, do we have a consensus here?
In a way, yeah, because it's kind of a mixture of what everyone's been saying. My need of clear liquid is not just WWE HR. It's not just the budget cuts. It's not just Vince McMahon needing to step down. It's not just a particular superstar getting released. It's everything. It is everything that WWE is doing this past year. So my choice is not anything. It's WWE in general, both behind the camera, both in front of the camera. They're now reached that point where I've been on the show many times and saying that WWE is hurting me so much that I am thinking about giving up being a wrestling fan. They have done so much to hurt me that it's very hard for me to basically turn my back on it, because it was WWE that got me being a wrestling fan in the first place, watching Survivor Series 1990. But now it is impossible to really be supportive of a company that just constantly does stuff like this. Dump a bunch of wrestlers for the sake of quote, quote, budget cuts when it's making one of its most profitable years in the company's history. You're booking everybody, heels, baby faces. You're booking them so horribly and making booking decisions on matches that are just, the nicest way to put it is questionable, to the fact that you have to ask yourself, why even bother investing in anything that they're putting on TV? Because it means jack shit in the end. Wins don't matter, losses don't matter, nothing matters in WWE. So unless your name is Roman Reigns, nothing matters. So why bother getting invested in anything that they put out? And why bother being invested in anyone where it's quite possible that these people could be cut in the next couple of days, no matter if they're in a huge storyline or not. So I couldn't be any more disappointed in WWE, to the point where we're not even sure if Triple H and Stephanie are even going to be taking over, because according to what was it, Mike Chioda, who did that interview, saying that the family is torn apart, that it looks like they just are going to give it to Nick Khan. So there's just nothing that I want to be invested in. Now I just look at WWE just so I can have something to discuss on the show, not because I want to. And when it's come to the point where I literally wanted to take a break from wrestling, like almost on a permanent basis, that's really saying something. Like pretty much AEW saved the wrestling fandom in me.
And with that, sorry, do you have more?
Oh, I'll just say, and it's just completely heartbreaking that the reason I got into wrestling in the first place is almost the reason that made me end being a wrestling fan, all in all. So I now don't know what WWE can do to really save themselves.
Well,
and I feel like maybe they need to step down from being top of the mountain.
And you know what? That's a great segue, because I believe I've got an idea, which I will cover in brief with my first pick in our final category of the evening, the You're Welcome Award, where compared to where we've been, the You're Welcome Award is an award we give to the best moment of the year overall. And for that, compared to what we were just talking about, I am going to give this You're Welcome Moment of the Year award to the return of CM Punk. Because like we were talking about, 2021 to me seemed like a battle for the heart and soul of pro wrestling that ultimately began in December of 2020 with the passing of Brody Lee, and how AEW and the wrestling world at large responded to this. That, I believe, was ultimately the beginning of the shift that we saw during this year. Because how long have we been sort of disgusted by the overly bloated corporate structure that WWE has come to represent, especially this year, where we just wanted to see more, or we wanted better for our favorite wrestlers. We wanted to see them get paid. We wanted to see them excel. We wanted to see them put on great matches. And it just seemed like there was so much cynicism week after week, month after month, year after year. And with AEW, I feel like, again, CM Punk has always been one of those figures where he was more than just the matches he put on. He was more than the promos he cut. He was representative of everything cutting edge and fresh and new and good in wrestling. And when he came back, when that heart was healed and he came back and he found that love of something he's lost, that encapsulated everything. The love was back. As I'll freely admit, I've been there too. I have had something I've loved, that passion beaten out of me after pushing myself and pushing myself and pushing myself. That will debilitate you, and it will take away something that you used to love. And to see that come back, to see those wounds be healed, brother, if those wounds can be healed from someone as cynical as CM Punk, the wounds can be healed from us all. And we found that love for professional wrestling again. Which brings me to my final overarching prediction for 2022. If 2021 was a battle for the heart and soul of wrestling itself, 2022 will be a battle of wrestling philosophies. What do I mean by that? Well, we're looking at NXT. We're seeing what direction it's going, where it seems like WWE is doubling down on their philosophy, because they got the impression that they're not going to out AEW, which is why they retooled what NXT is in their mind. They're home-growing talent. They're going to ultimately create the same farm system that they always wanted, to create malleable stars of the future. They want to have people who will be homegrown talent, who will not question what they're given. Meanwhile, you've got AEW, who does wrestling as it always has been. Little less controllable, little more wild, a little bit more unpredictable, but that's what makes it exciting. And as much as we've been bashing WWE all night, I feel like this is actually going to be the most interesting dynamic of 2022. As much as I think I know what's going to happen, to see these actual dynamics both fully realized in full living color, clashing in a it was really a competition like we haven't seen before in wrestling ever. It's not going to be a week by week thing. This is going to be a long-term war of where is the customer confidence? Where is the heart and soul of professional wrestling going? Where is the future? What will the future be? And as much as I want to say it's going to be AEW, for the time being, as long as it remains, they've got my heart, and it all began and was encapsulated with the return of CM Punk. Sorry if they got a little ranty there, but that is my pick. That
Damn.
I've been
Jeff,
sitting on that. So that is my prediction. It's 2022 is going to be a year unlike anything other in the wrestling world. But enough of my rant. Jaybird, give us your pick for the You're Welcome moment of the year.
Well, I'm not going to top that by a long shot, Jeff, but I'll try my best. So for me, my moment had to be watching All Out this year. Omega defeats Christian. The Young Bucks are celebrating the ring, and the lights go out, and all of a sudden, you just hear, it's all about the boom. It's Adam Cole's debut in AEW. Like, Daniel Bryan's debut was big for me, but seeing Cole show up before him and just he walks out, he's acting like he's hot stuff. He's gonna take on Kenny, and then all of a sudden they just hug in the ring, and I'm just like, oh, you magnificent son of a bitch. Just seeing Cole actually free from WWE in AEW was just that pop, the reaction. And it was funny because my wife was sleeping during that point in the pay-per-view, so I'm just like, oh my God. Like, then I saw D-Bry come out, or Bryan Danielson. I'm just like, oh, cool, he's out. But I was losing when Adam Cole came out. It was just, that was the moment of the year when I was just like, AEW, you made me happy, and it just made me a little more happier after bringing probably one of my top 5 favorite wrestlers of the last 10 years. Just Mr. All About the Boom, Adam Cole, baby, just bringing him in and setting up that great feud somewhere down the line of the Undisputed Era versus the Elite coming up. I'm just looking forward to it. But yeah, Adam Cole, All Out 2021. That was my moment.
All right, pitching over to Charlie. What is your welcome moment of the year?
In a year filled with shit from WWE, I feel contradictory even thanking them for this moment, but it's like being really angry with someone, but just being like, oh, by the way, thanks for that. Xavier Woods winning King of the Ring.
Good pick.
Nice.
Long time coming. I'm glad it came to fruition.
Hey, I've always been a believer, and you gotta give credit where it's due, and credit is absolutely due there. Tarek, it's your pick. What do you got for the Your Welcome Award of the year?
The one moment that made me literally break down and cry, and pretty much made most of the wrestling world cry, and that is pretty much, I'm going to go with Jeff, and I'm going to say CM Punk to AEW. I really can't add anything more to what you said, fool. But so I'm not even going to try to.
All right, fair enough. And last but not least, Brian, it's your final pick of the evening. What's your You're Welcome moment of the year?
Okay, first of all, I want to give an honorable mention to Big E winning the WWE Championship. I want to give
Nice.
I want to give an honorable mention to that, because we've all been clamoring for a couple of years now for Big E to get his shot, and the WWE finally gave it to him. Not exactly pleased with where it's gone from there, but actually giving him a shot with the big time title gave them a plus in my book for the year, one of the only ones they got. But for me, I'm gonna go with a mixture of moments from All Out that we've spoken from. Yeah, the CM Punk actual return on Rampage was great for the emotional moment and all that, but you didn't really believe it was real until he actually got in the ring for the first time. So for for me, it's going to be the actual return to the ring of CM Punk, and add into that on the same night, you get Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson coming into AEW, and just mix them all together, and it's everything you could have wanted in in one in 1 hour time span. In 1 hour time span, I got everything I could have wanted out of wrestling this year. I got it all in 1 hour. so it's like, and showing that CM Punk could still go. It's like, yeah, you had the moment where he came out to the ring and he spoke to the crowd and he was jumping into the crowd and everybody was crying and everything was good and all that, and everyone was having a good time. But it's like, okay, but I'm not gonna believe this is real until you step into the ring. He stepped into the ring, he showed he still had it, and then like within 45 minutes we were getting the debut of Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson. It's like, holy crap. Like, and Tarek and I were once again talking on the phone, and I'm looking at Twitter while I'm talking on the phone, and it's like, oh, Adam Cole debuted, and then dot 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 dot, and we're just talking, and I'm like, holy shit, Bryan Danielson debuted too. And just the happiness of those moments involved were like, as Jeff said, like just on the phone. Okay, I could hear it in Tarek that he was that he was coming back from, because he had been talking to me about the same thing that he was talking about, like he was tuning out. He didn't know if he could be a wrestling fan anymore. And then we're talking about what's going on at All Out, and just I could hear it in his voice that it was coming back to him and all that, just from everything that was going on. And just the last hour of that show for me is the moment of the year, the best moment that the wrestling world had this year.
All right. And with that is our set of awards. For those are our 2021 Scully Awards. At long last, those are our opinions. That is what we think. So now, as always, we're pitching it over to you, our fellow fans. What do you think was the best and worst of 2021 in the world of professional wrestling? We want to hear from you, so drop us a line all across the internet, YouTube comments, Facebook posts, and our personal favorites, the Twitter machines. We welcome everything and everything. So if you want to check us out on Twitter, you can follow us at ScholarsOW, our main page for all the latest episode uploads every single week. And Fool, where can I reach you?
You can reach me clearing out my list ready for Scholly's 2022, but keeping Cesaro there unless otherwise, at the Avataric.
And Brian, where can I reach you?
You can reach me screaming at nothing at Atomic Beanpole.
And Charlie, where can I reach you?
You can find me wishing and praying to become Scholar of the Year at Charlene.
Jaybird, where can I reach you?
You can find me praying that I'm going to become a scholar sometime next year at Hero Huey 316.
And you can join me at I'm Robbie Rage. Join in the conversation. This is actually going to be our final show of the year. We're taking the next couple weeks off to enjoy the holidays with our families and loved ones. But after the first of the year, we're coming back in full force. We're talking day one. We're talking about the latest Dynamite that's going to be in our neck of the woods. It's going to be a jam-packed episode, and we're going to see you all there. You know it's going to be a good time because you know who we are. We are the Scholars of Wrestling, and you have just been schooled. You're welcome. See you all in 2022. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy New Year to all of you.
See you all next year.
Happy
Bye.
holidays, everyone.
Bye.